John MacArthur is trending right now on YouTube, but it seems to be for all of the wrong reasons, okay? Recently, John MacArthur got on a Q&A and he was speaking on mental illness, and he stated that the labels that are put on mental illnesses are in fact not real, and he's getting a lot of backlash from this, okay? So we are going to go ahead and hop into that video. I want to show you guys this. We're going to react to it, okay? But before we do me a favor real quick. Hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, okay, so that they can push this video out to more people like yourself. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and let's hop into this video right now.
There's no such thing as PTSD. There's no such thing as OCD. There's no such thing as ADHD. Those are noble lies. To basically give the excuse to, in the end of the day, to medicate people. And Big Pharma is in charge of a lot of that. If you understand, take PTSD, for example. What that really is grief. You are fighting a war, you lost your buddies, you have a certain amount of survival guilt because you made it back, they didn't. How do you deal with grief? Grief is a real thing. But grief is part of life. And if you can't navigate grief, you can't live life. But if you clinically define that, you can give them a pill, a series of medications, and they end up in LA homeless on the sidewalk. This is in regard to children, it's the most deadly thing that's been unleashed on children, medication. We're trying to make clear to parents that behavior is essentially the result of choices that kids make. And if you parent them properly, they'll make right choices. But if you blame it on something other than their choices, and you identify them as having something they can't do anything about, but medicate it, you literally are turning your child into a potential well, not only a potential drug addict, but maybe a potential criminal, because they never learn how to navigate life in a socially acceptable way.
Okay, so let's go ahead and break this down real quick, okay? Because he actually said a mouthful. So I'm going to deal with the first thing that he said. Okay, he was speaking on grief, and he's talking about a soldier that went to war, okay, and lost some buddies, and they came back and they have survivor's guilt. Okay. And that's a true statement. That's a real thing. Okay. If you guys don't know, I don't know if I've said it on my channel, but I was in the military. Okay. I didn't deploy, but I've met many of people who have deployed, and that is a real thing. Survivor's guilt is an actual real thing. But this is the question. This is what it comes down to. Is taking some form of medication to help someone get over a certain issue, is that necessarily a bad thing, right? So what he is referring to, he's pretty much stating that you're going to be on this medication for the rest of your life. But that's not the goal of medication. The goal of medication is to help you suffice for the time being. And then you learn through therapy, you learn through prayer, through getting back and getting social. You learn how to cope with certain issues. Okay, just coming out and saying that medication in itself is a bad thing, that's nonsense. Because let me ask you this question, okay? If you fell off of a bridge, let's say you tripped and fell off of a bridge, right? And you broke your leg. Would you want the doctors to give you some form of medication, whether it be some kind of codeine or something that helps ease the pain for that moment, right? You're not supposed to be on it for the rest of your life, but the medication is awesome, great, and it's much needed for the moment so that you can cope and survive through whatever tragic situation you've been through. That's the reason for medication, okay? And it just kind of hits home. I know there's people out there that have survivor's guilt. You might be somebody who's watching this that has had PTSD. I have people that I know that has PTSD from certain events that took place in life. And I can tell you 100% that the medication does help, but I will say they should not be on it for the rest of their life. Now let's get on to the next part that he said about children. So when it comes to children needing certain medication, I do believe that there's an overuse of children that's receiving medication for things that they may not need it for. But with that being said, there are children that have legitimate problems, okay? There are children that you can tell that there is something off with them, whether it's behavior, whether it's cognitive abilities. And to say that they are getting pretty much drugged is also a big stretch. That's a huge stretch. There's always going to be some group that is getting over abused. They're getting abused by these medications because they may not necessarily need them. But I believe for the overall majority, according to the statistics, according to kids that have been tested and have been tested versus kids that don't need it, there is a group of kids that need medication for certain things. And like I said, for the last topic about the PTSD, they may not have to be on it for the rest of their lives. Okay, you can teach them certain behavior things, certain triggers. You know what I'm saying? But the medication may be good for the time being. I want to show you guys a video of John MacArthur and John Piper, and they're having a conversation. And listen to what John Piper's about to say, because John Piper actually dealt with clinical depression, okay? So I want you guys to hear his opinion on this topic.
And I remember I was 40, sitting on the steps halfway through vacation, sobbing. Noel comes down the steps. "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't have a clue."
Wow.
It was like PMS. I just said, I don't know if I want to stay. I don't know if I want. I don't have a clue why I'm so sad. And that season lasted several years. And the grace was that I could still function.
It lasted several years?
Mm-hmm. I've met people like him before. I had a church chairman named Roland Erickson, and Roland would ask me, "Define depression." He didn't have a clue. It was like Gazornenplat. So if you don't know it, you don't know it. You're okay. Just stay there.
Well, I feel like I'm missing a great experience.
I was listening to an author the other day, and they said, "What's the best thing about writing?" And she said, "The last page." And so what's great about depression is the light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody enjoys being depressed in the middle of it.
Okay, so as you can see, John Piper has dealt with depression, and John MacArthur seems to have never dealt with any type of depression, and he doesn't know how it feels, okay? I don't believe that I've ever dealt with clinical depression. I think everyone deals with situational depression, and I think I've had that before in my life where a certain thing was just happening in my life and I didn't like it and I felt depressed. But other than that, I don't believe I had clinical depression ever in my life. But I know someone who has had that. And when I tell you there's a difference between me and that person, and I don't understand why they have that. I don't understand why they're sad at times, but I had to learn that this is real. It's not in their head. It's not made up. It's a real thing that they feel. And just because you don't suffer from it does not mean that it's not real. Okay, so 1 Peter 5:7 says, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." Okay, so this is Peter saying to cast your anxieties onto Christ because he cares for you. So that tells you that in life we have these problems. Okay, we have anxiety and worry and fear over things that haven't happened or things that may happen or things that have already happened, right? And so God tells us he wants us to rely on him when these things take place, but there's no problem with supplementing medicine too and adding medicine for the time being. What problem is that? Because there's also a spot in the Bible that says to drink a little wine for your infirmities, okay? And for your stomach. So if you are, and they didn't have these kind of medicines that we have today, okay? So they drank wine for sickness. They didn't have pills to take. No one has created that. So if you are taking medication for a sickness or for a problem, there is no problem with that as long as it's dealing with that problem. But medication is only supposed to be temporary. Some medications are lifelong. If you have high blood pressure and it's not going away, you have to take the medication for it. There's no other option. It's a physical ailment that if you don't take the medication, you could possibly lose your life. So medication is a good thing. It's just that we can use it in a bad way. Overall, I think that John MacArthur may have been a little bit too insensitive to medication and people that's taking it. Like I said, there is a part of me that does agree with him in the sense that it's definitely being overused. There are some people that may not exactly need the medication, but doctors are more than willing to give you the medication because they're getting paid off of this, right? But I think the majority of people that are taking medication, they do need it, and they may not need it for as long as they are having it, or they may be getting off of it soon. But it's definitely a good thing that we have certain medications. It's not a bad thing. We can't overuse it though. So I think he was just a little bit insensitive on that. But at the same time, it is definitely a topic that needs to be talked about, especially within the young children, because there's some medications they may not need, but there are things that they absolutely do need. Ultimately, though, I would say that Christ is the main source for healing. Okay, medication is not supposed to be the main source. Therapy isn't supposed to be the main source. The main source for true healing is through Christ. So if you take medication, if you know someone that does, they need Christ in their life more than they need medication. Okay, that's the honest truth. And medication does help, but Christ is first, okay? Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section, okay? If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, I encourage you, hit that subscribe button, okay? And hit the post notification bell so you do not miss another video. All right, my name is Aaron Page. I'm going to catch y'all on the next video. Until next time, I'm out.